Welcome back to Deb's True Crime Notebook, where we read the documents for you so you don't have to. It's November 5th, and this is the 16th day in the Richard Allen trial. We are here with more information about the afternoon session, and also we have a little bit of information from the morning session that we just received. So let's get right into it. Court resumed at 11 a.m. Defense attorney Brad Rosie is continuing his examination of Eric Warren. He inquires, "Do firearms manufacturers consider the force of the slide?" Warren replies, "Yes, it's a blueprint characteristic." Rosie then asks if there was research on the integrity of the slide over time. Warren responds, "Not specifically." Next, Rosie questions, "How would you assess Sig Sauer's quality?" Warren states it is generally regarded as high quality. The slide should retain its integrity over time. At 11:36 a.m., prosecution attorney James Luttrell begins his cross-examination. He asks Warren, "You have no written report in this case. Why is that?" Warren explains, "It's not something that came up." Luttrell continues, "You would expect tool marks to persist over the years, even with heavy use." Warren confirms yes. Luttrell discusses class, subclass, and individual characteristics, emphasizing that subclass arises from the manufacturing process. He asks, "Even subsequential serial numbers may not share subclass characteristics." Warren responds, "Correct, but it depends." Finally, Luttrell asks, "Will a trained examiner always look for subclass characteristics?" Warren replies, "Yes." Luttrell inquires, "Did Oberg express any concerns regarding the subclass of the extractor or chamber?" Warren replies, "No." Luttrell then asks, "Are you aware of how many years of experience Oberg had as a firearms and tool mark examiner? Are you implying to the jury that Oberg overlooked the subclass of the extractor or chamber?" Warren responds, "It's possible since there's no documentation. I strive to document everything to the best of my ability." Luttrell continues, "Oberg identified 3 different tools yielding strengthened results, correct?" Warren answers no. Luttrell questions whether Warren agrees with the findings on the chamber hood in the report. Warren states, "There's some argument, but it is not sufficient." Luttrell asks, "Was the test-fired cartridge in this case consistent with Oberg's conclusion?" Warren confirms yes. That was her conclusion. Finally, Luttrell asks, "Do you actively use CMS, firearm training methods?" Wheeler replies, "Yes, but it's only applicable to striated marks, not impress marks." He added that he does not utilize it in every case. Luttrell inquires, "Were you trained to utilize another examiner's photographs to testify about CMS in court?" Warren responds affirmatively. Luttrell then asks, "In 2021, did you state that you did not use CMS?" Warren replies, "It may not have been applicable in that case, but I can't recall." Luttrell points out that Warren's lab lacks accreditation and questions, "What is the most crucial tool in your lab?" Warren answers, "Myself." Luttrell continues, "How important is your comparison microscope to you?" Warren states, "You need to use it when making a comparison." Luttrell follows up, "When Rosie asked if you received everything you needed, did that not include the cartridge or gun?" Warren clarifies, "I received all the documentation I required." At this juncture, Luttrell is pressing Warren on why he did not request or physically examine the cartridge and gun. Rosie inquires, "Did I request that you write a report?" Warren replies, "No." Rosie then asks, "Did you make yourself available for deposition by the prosecution?" Warren responds, "Yes, but that was a few weeks ago while I was in Morocco." At this time, the jury began with their questions for Warren. 1. How would CMS or objective testing be used when testing a firearm with a change in slide and racking angle? Warren says it would still need significant agreement. 2. Would removing, cleaning, disassembling change individual characteristics of a firearm? Warren says no, only if there was some sort of damage. 3. Do you know if manufacturers keep track of subclass? Warren says no, they don't. 4. Is there a reason you didn't verify the results of Oberg's test by doing your own test? Would conducting your own analysis yield more definitive results? Warren responds, hard to say. Is CMS criteria considered the gold standard? Now, I need to interrupt here. We do not have a clear answer here. It's very difficult to hear at times in the court. Moving on to the next question. Are you a certified firearm and tool mark examiner? Warren confirms this. Would individual markings vary based on who cycles the firearm? Warren states, documentation from Oberg does not support that conclusion. Next question. Did you examine the subclass marks on the cartridge? There's no definitive answer here as well. Again, very difficult to hear in the courtroom. Next question. What is the significance of cartridges having similar subclass characteristics? Warren mentions it depends on whether it comes from manufacturing or cycling. Next question. Are subsequential serial numbers produced in the same lot? Warren explains it is generally accepted that closely numbered serials have parts made around the same time, though they may come from different lots. I will tell you that I will seek out others to find out definitive answers to the couple of questions that we did not have answers for and let you know in tomorrow's video. Are you aware Allen's gun ejector was recessed and had similar markings to markings made on the cartridge? Warren says that is common in many guns like it. Is it normal practice to not issue a report when consulting? Warren says yes. What are the chances the cartridge at the scene matches the test bullets? Warren says higher likelihood of guns just in Indiana. And then the court recessed for lunch at 12:42 p.m. Court reconvened at 1:47 p.m. The state announced that the next defense witness would be a phone expert and requested that two previous witnesses who had examined Libby's phone be allowed to remain in the courtroom for rebuttal purposes. The jury returned to the courtroom at 1:52 p.m. The defense then called upon Stacey Eldridge as a witness. Eldridge is an expert in computer information management and has nearly a decade of experience with the FBI, where she served as a forensic examiner and later as a senior examiner. Additionally, she has worked as an instructor on digital evidence. Eldridge informed the jury that she left the FBI and is currently a licensed private detective in Nebraska. She also mentioned that she previously held a license for Cellbrite, the software utilized for forensic cell phone examinations. She states that she is currently a consultant and an adjunct professor at 2 universities. Eldridge informs the juries that she has provided testimony for the government on 3 occasions and is an owner of a business named Silicon Prairie Cyber Services. She reveals to the jury that the defense is compensating her $300 per hour for her testimony and that she has dedicated 65 hours to examination for this case along with 15 hours in preparation for her testimony. Eldridge mentions that she reviewed the cell phone extraction from October 2017, the Cellbrite report, and the report authored by Chris Cecil. She also examined Cecil's deposition. Eldridge tells the jury that the ISP utilized Cellbrite, Axiom, and other forensic tools to analyze Libby's phone. She explains that she primarily relied on Axiom and employed 2 additional tools. She clarifies to the jury that each tool can perform tasks slightly differently or present the data in various formats. She informs the jury that an extraction involves retrieving all data from a phone for later examination. Eldridge states that all the information she analyzed originated from the ISP. She explains that there are 3 level 6 extractions available, each pulling different amounts of information. Eldridge clarifies that a logical extraction includes basic user details, which is what Libby's phone contained in early 2017. Eldridge mentions that the ISP had the capability to perform a full extraction of Libby's phone in early 2017, but only did so in October of that year. She explains to the jury that this delay led to complications, resulting in the loss of a specific piece of data known as the current power log. She points out that this log is only retained while a phone is completely powered off and then turned back on. Eldridge notes that the log can indicate whether the phone was switched to airplane mode. She emphasizes that her main focus was to determine what happened with the phone at 4:34 a.m. on February 14, 2017, to explain why it received multiple text messages. Following the prosecution's statement that they had not reviewed an exhibit related to Eldridge's report on Libby's phone database, Judge Gull calls for a sidebar. Initially, they expressed that they haven't examined the exhibit, but then stated they have no objections. Eldridge steps down from the witness stand and approaches a screen displaying the report. She elaborates on many of the columns and rows, with the reporter comparing the exhibit to an Excel spreadsheet. Eldridge indicates that she generally concurs with the state's experts' analysis of Libby's phone timeline, but notes some disagreements. She specifically mentions her objection regarding certain timestamps, as well as the texts, calls, and FaceTime communications recorded between February 13th and 14th. Eldridge informs the jury that there were instances on both the 13th and 14th when the phone was not connected to a cell tower. She states that the last connection on the 13th occurred at 5:45 p.m., with reconnection at 4:33 a.m. on the 14th. Eldridge shares that she examined cell phone pings from AT&T and presents historical precision location logs from the company. The state objects, arguing that Eldridge lacks training regarding the network capabilities in Carroll County, claiming the log is complete and that she is not qualified. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger counters, asserting that the admitted page is relevant to the case. Though there are several hundred additional logs, despite the state's objection, Gull accepts the exhibit. Eldridge reports that Libby's phone last connected on February 14th at 4:33 a.m., following a prior connection at 4:45 p.m. on February the 13th. She observes that there was not recorded activity on the phone between these two times. Cecil's report indicates that messages were sent during this period, but Eldridge asserts there is evidence showing that the phone did not receive any messages during that time frame. Although some messages were time-stamped between the two connection times, they were not delivered. Furthermore, voicemails sent during the intervals were not received until February 17th. Auger asks for clarification on what a ping means. Eldridge explains that it is a technical method used by one device to check for the presence of another. She noticed that AT&T attempted to ping Libby's phone multiple times after 5:44 p.m. on February 13th, but only succeeded at 4:33 a.m. on February 14th. Eldridge acknowledged that she cannot determine why the phone failed to ping during that time, despite being stationary behind Abby's back. She concludes, "I can only assume something external affected the phone, suggesting it may have been moved, obstructed by metal, or blocked from the tower." Eldridge responds to inquiries regarding the phone's health data, agreeing with Cecil's findings about the step tracking. She explains that iPhones do not record steps if the user is in a vehicle or if the phone is turned off. Eldridge reveals that from 5:44 p.m. to 10:32 p.m. on February 13th, the phone had wired headphones connected. She demonstrates how headphones can be plugged into an iPhone 6S. She also notes that it could have been an auxiliary cord connected to the phone in a car. "I cannot think of any explanation that does not involve humans," she tells the jury. Eldridge mentions that just before the headphones were connected, an incoming call occurred, noting that the headphones would have prevented that call. At 3:09 p.m., Prosecutor Nick McClellan begins his cross-examination. He inquires about Eldridge's training in cell phone extraction. She states that this is her first time testifying regarding cell phone extraction, apart from her testimony in July. Eldridge informs the jury that she obtained a rough location of where the bodies and the phone were discovered, although she did not visit the crime scene. She indicates that she did not review all the information collected by Cecil, focusing primarily on health data. Eldridge confirms that she watched the Bridge Guy video and agrees with its timestamp and GPS location, but admits she did not analyze it thoroughly enough to realize that the GPS location changed 4 seconds into the video. Eldridge clarifies that for the phone to track motion, there must be vertical movement. However, she maintains that the phone would not have logged data if it was in a car. She also states that she did not find any evidence indicating that the phone had been turned off. She mentioned that the phone experienced inconsistent service before 5:45 p.m. on February 13th. She proposes that this could be an explanation for why Libby's phone was hopping in and out of service and regained connectivity at 4:33 a.m. on February 14th. McClellan asked if the phone would need to be moved to connect headphones and if such movement could have been recorded in the health data. Eldridge concedes that this is possible, though she did not test this scenario. She also points out that a signal blocker, like metal within a building, might have affected service. During redirect, Eldridge clarifies that she reviewed the most important information in the number of hours she had. Auger questions whether the FBI conducted a drive study, a technique involving driving around to evaluate signal reception in various areas, and if they had the capability to do so in 2017. Eldridge replies theoretically. Eldridge informs the jury that to connect an auxiliary cable, the phone would need to be moved. She adds that if the phone was turned off after 4:33 a.m., it wouldn't have logged any movement. At 3:35, McClellan resumes cross-examination, and Eldridge notes that a little bit of movement is necessary for a phone to start recording its movements. The jury posed the following inquiries. 1. Did you ever create your own timeline? Eldridge responded, no, not enough time. 2. Could any of this be linked to Libby's iPad? Eldridge indicates that they were not synced. 3. Would water affect movement? Eldridge stated that water would not impact the port. 4. Can you determine if the phone was set to silent or vibrate? Eldridge replied no. 5. Would you be able to review Allen's historical location timeline if he was using a Ting phone? She confirmed she could, provided it was available. 6. Are there other applications that track movement? She acknowledged there are, but she did not check if Libby had them. Court recessed at 3:45 p.m. At 4:07 p.m., court is back in session. Judge Gull starts off by scolding the jury. She says officers informed her of people in the jury talking and says anyone talking will be kicked out. The defense presents First Sergeant Chris Cecil from ISP as a witness. Defense attorney Jennifer Auger inquires about the meaning of audio output start, to which Cecil admits he is unfamiliar. He explains that he lacks the education to understand why a cell phone might connect or fail to connect to a tower. Cross-examination by McClellan commences at 4:08 p.m. Cecil reveals that he researched the jury's question about water during the break, finding that a Google search indicated a phone could detect water or dirt in the headphone port as if headphones were connected. Auger starts redirect and inquires of Cecil. Do you typically use Google for research in a criminal investigation? Cecil replies, not usually, no. Auger continues, you generally refer to peer-reviewed articles, correct? Cecil confirms that's right. Auger then asks, you and the state have had 7.5 years to conduct research on this matter. Cecil affirms that's correct. Next, the defense calls Brian Booner, a lieutenant with the Indiana State Police. Auger questions him. Are you familiar with what audio output means? Booner responds with the no. She follows up by asking, have you conducted any Google searches? He answers no. The defense has no additional questions. And that concludes this afternoon's session of Day 16 in the Richard Allen trial. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Thanks for watching and listening. If you could do me a favor and just like, subscribe, ring the bell for all notifications, share this with friends and in your groups, and also give us a comment because we'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Where are you at this time? Do you think the defense has done a good job? Do you think the prosecution is doing a better job? What is your verdict? Let us know in the comments. Bye for now. See you tomorrow.